The door in the woods. The forest behind my grandparents' house was a place of childhood wonder. Every summer, my brother, Ryan, and I would spend hours wandering through the trees, pretending we were explorers charting unknown territory. It was a dense, sprawling expanse of wilderness, the kind of place where you could lose yourself if you weren't careful. Our grandparents always warned us not to go too far. The forest doesn't like to give back what it takes, Grandpa would say, a strange look in his eye. We thought it was just his way of scaring us into staying close to the house. But looking back, I think he knew more than he let on. The last summer we spent there was when it happened. Ryan and I were both teenagers by then, our sense of adventure dulled by years of growing up. But the forest still called to us, especially on lazy afternoons when there was nothing else to do. One day, we decided to explore deeper than we ever had before. "I bet there's something cool out there," Ryan said as we packed a backpack with snacks and a flashlight. "Like a cave or an old cabin. Or just more trees," I replied, rolling my eyes. Still, I couldn't deny the thrill of venturing into the unknown. We set off after lunch, the sun filtering through the canopy above. The forest was alive with the sound of birds and rustling leaves, the air thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. We walked for hours, following no particular path, just letting curiosity guide us. That's when we found it. At first, I thought it was just a shadow. The trees in that part of the forest were so densely packed that sunlight barely reached the ground, creating patches of darkness that seemed to shift and move as the wind blew. But as we got closer, I realized it wasn't a shadow at all. It was a door. It stood alone, unattached to any structure, framed by gnarled tree roots that twisted around it like skeletal hands. The wood was dark and weathered, covered in strange carvings that seemed to shimmer faintly in the dim light. Ryan stepped forward, running his fingers over the symbols. "What do you think it is?" he asked. "A prank, maybe? Like some kind of art installation?" I suggested, though even as I said it, I didn't believe it. There was something about the door that felt wrong. The air around it was colder, and the usual sounds of the forest, birds, insects, rustling leaves, were gone. Ryan grabbed the handle. "Wait," I said, grabbing his arm. "What?" he asked, clearly annoyed. "Don't you think it's weird? I mean, why would there be a door in the middle of the woods?" He shrugged. "Maybe it leads somewhere." "To what?" He grinned. "Let's find out." Before I could stop him, he turned the handle and pulled. The door opened with a low, groaning creak, revealing nothing but pitch-black darkness on the other side. Ryan shone the flashlight into the void, but the beam seemed to be swallowed up, unable to penetrate the inky blackness. "Hello?" he called, his voice echoing strangely, as if the space beyond the door was vast and empty. "Let's just go back," I said, unease curling in my stomach, but Ryan was already stepping through. I hesitated, torn between my fear and the thought of leaving him alone. Finally, I took a deep breath and followed. The darkness was disorienting, almost suffocating, like stepping into a void where time and space didn't exist. But after a few moments, the blackness gave way to a faint, pulsing light. The space we entered was enormous, far larger than anything that should have been able to fit behind the door. The walls and floor were made of the same gnarled wood as the door, twisting and spiraling like the inside of a giant tree. The light came from the carvings etched into the walls, the same symbols that had been on the door. They pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat. Ryan and I exchanged a nervous glance. "Let's go back," I whispered. "Just a little further," he said, his voice tinged with excitement. We moved deeper into the space, the light growing brighter with each step. That's when we heard it. A sound, faint at first but growing louder. A low, guttural growl that seemed to come from all around us. I grabbed Ryan's arm. "We need to leave. Now." He nodded, his earlier confidence replaced by fear. We turned back toward the door, but it was gone. Panic set in as we searched for the way out. The space seemed to shift and change around us, the walls twisting and contorting as if the place was alive. The growling grew louder, joined by the sound of something massive moving in the distance. Then we saw it. A figure emerged from the shadows, its form barely visible in the pulsing light. It was tall, inhumanly so, its body a mass of writhing, black tendrils. Its face, if you could call it that, was featureless except for a pair of glowing, white eyes. It moved slowly, deliberately, its gaze fixed on us. Ryan grabbed my hand, and we ran. I don't know how long we ran. Time didn't seem to work the same way in that place. The pulsing light blurred together, and the growling never faded, always just behind us. Finally, we stumbled into a clearing, and there it was, the door. It stood exactly as it had in the forest, but this time, it was framed by the same glowing carvings that covered the walls. Ryan reached for the handle, but the figure was faster. It lunged toward us, its tendrils stretching impossibly far. Ryan shoved me through the door, and I hit the ground hard, the air knocked out of my lungs. When I turned back, he was gone. The door slammed shut. I woke up in the forest, the sunlight streaming through the trees. The door was gone, replaced by a patch of bare, undisturbed earth. I searched for Ryan for hours, calling his name until my voice was hoarse. Eventually, I stumbled back to my grandparents' house, tears streaming down my face. They didn't ask where Ryan was. They just looked at me with that same strange, knowing expression, and Grandpa said, "The forest doesn't like to give back what it takes." It's been 10 years since that day. I've gone back to the forest countless times, hoping to find the door, to find Ryan. But it's never there. Sometimes, though, late at night, I hear it, the low, guttural growl that haunted my dreams. And I wonder if the forest is still waiting for me.